Hi, I'm Sam Sorbo. Welcome to the show. Let's get right into it. I want to talk today about the separation of church and state, which was something that Thomas Jefferson included in a letter to a religious leader in order to assure him that the state would not be infringing on the rights of the church. But we have perverted that phrase to mean that the church has no place in government, which of course is absurd. And it's very unfortunate. At the time that phrase was written, let's just say the government was usurping rights. It had become dangerous, and there was a prevailing thought in the nation that was not yet a nation. There was sort of a prevailing thought that the government shouldn't have as much power as it heretofore had had, and so that is where that phrase comes from. And today, what we've seen is, and I've talked about this before, this idea that you can teach children apart from morality. But if you teach children apart from morality, all you're doing is making better criminals. Think about that. Now, I thought that there was a founding father who actually said that, but I went on the interweb and I looked it up and I couldn't find the quote anywhere, which makes me sad because either they've gotten away from it or I must have read somebody else having written that. Um, I want to invite you all to join me on Epic TV, and you can go to Epic TV and see my stuff is going up as we speak. I'm very excited because I'm doing a new show all about education and how we've lost the thread. We've lost the focus of what education should be. We do not any longer have an understanding of the very word education, sadly. And while I was doing some research for the show, I went and looked up the definition of education, and lo and behold, they have perverted it from its I the original, which of course, it's not the original definition, but Noah Webster put it in his, I think it's it's an 1800s dictionary that I have that's actually right there on my shelf. 1828, his dictionary. And the way that he defined education back then was it basically included moral teaching, because it never occurred to them that you could train somebody without morality, because that is part and parcel of learning how the world works, learning how to be in the world. And if you bring up a child without morality, then you bring up a child without manners. Basically, you're bringing up a child without any kind of grounding. And then what's the child to do? Anything that person wants to do with impunity, basically. And then you have all the people who have been brought up that way. How are they going to be enforcing laws? So if the one morality is don't break the law, but of course the underlying morality is only break it if you can get away with it and won't get punished, it's off the rails. So I wanted to talk about this briefly because this came across, I can't remember if I was reading a podcast, but I made some notes as I do. There's no separation now between the Church of Progressivism, and it is a religion, and the state, because the state supports progressivism at almost every turn. Now, that is not to a person, but by and large, the state is very busy supporting progressivism, progressive ideology. And partly the reason is because the state believes that the state is the solution. Now, there are individuals, conservatives, who are serving in government who don't hold to that. And God bless them. That's awesome. But we have this seemingly monolithic government that only tends to move in the one direction, and that is to usurp power. So the prevailing church today, and it's throughout our school system, and don't argue with me on this, it is throughout, it has pervaded our, certainly our public school system, certainly our government school system, but I would argue that it is also within many of our parochial schools, many of our religious schools, if only because they have taken the government school paradigm and decided to work within its framework. And so this human secularism slash socialism slash humanism slash progressivism slash Marxist ideology is now throughout our education. And I shouldn't say education, schools, right? Let's just call them schools, because they are no longer engaged in education, they're engaged in schooling, okay? And now we've come to this, where it's teaching transgenderism, teaching it. This is how you be a transgender. This is how you behave around transgenders. This is what a transgender person looks like. Never mind that there's absolutely no scientific evidence that a transgender individual exists. I suppose it depends on how you define the word. Critical race theory, which is just teaching children that they are all racists. It's teaching little white children that they are racist against Black people and hateful and bigoted. And it's teaching Black children that their race identifies them and there's no way out. There's no cure. There's no cure. It's literally diagnosing your children with a disease and telling them that there is no cure. That's child abuse. And then it's also teaching children to worship government, right? Because government can solve everything. That's the plan. So my question is there any difference between the ability to discern a boy from a girl and the ability to discern right from wrong, or moral from immoral? Are we going to say, oh, those are two different things? Because I lump them all together. You either can discern, and good for you, or you can't. And right now we're teaching children not to. And then this final little note, which I thought, sorry, before I go there, I just want to ask, if teenagers are now just arbitrarily able to determine their gender, they can mutilate their bodies. Doctors are applauded and paid handsomely for removing 13-year-old girls' breasts and the like. Why not pedophilia? I mean, if the child consents, why not? And don't give me, oh, it won't go there. I'm just saying, why wouldn't it? Prove to me that it won't. Prove to me that if we are basically tacitly affirming all of this craziness, that it won't go into further craziness. Because look, if you don't have a backbone, you don't have a backbone. Where do we draw the line? When do we stand up and say, that's a lie? That's a lie. Stop lying. Let's deal in truth. Even the smallest child knows the difference between the genders. Boom, right away. Without question, knows the difference. So the last thing that I will say, because this really struck me, laugh tracks are catechetical, as in catechism. The laugh track is put onto a sitcom to tell you how to respond to the information. It's called programming for a reason. And I never thought of it that way. I just thought, well, that's stupid. Why, that's a stupid sitcom because that's not funny to me. But in fact, if you sit there and watch the unfunny sitcoms, those laugh tracks are catechizing you. They are training you to understand, no, this is funny. Like Like the gay joke is not funny, but the joke about the stupid dad is funny. The teen coming out to his parents is sad, and so you hear the audience's reaction to that, or it's happy and you hear the audience's. They are training you on how to respond. The schooling doesn't stop. The schooling continues. So join me on Epic TV, and lots of other places. I want to also put a plug in. I just started broadcasting on Liftable TV, so you can go to Liftable TV /Sam Sorbo. And if you subscribe to Liftable TV, do it from my page, because then they know that you've come to watch me or something. I was told that I'm the #1 face on Liftable TV right now, which is very encouraging to me. I'm very excited about that. So go to Liftable TV /Sam Sorbo to check that out. The podcast is available sort of everywhere: Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, Google Podcasts, obviously. So the podcast is available everywhere. And so if you're listening on radio at mojo50.com or on a podcast, I will be right back. I'm just going to take a brief break and I'll be right back with a guest. If you're watching the video, then just scroll down to the next video. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Be right back. Hi, folks. Sam Sorbo here. Are you tired of seeing all of America's resources being drained away? I know that I'm kind of fed up, and I think the time for talking is over, and it's time that we took action to try to save this country. And there is one little thing that you can do. We saw our friends and families, jobs and businesses sort of wither on the vine, while America's huge corporations had a financial windfall this past year. That doesn't sound fair to me. That doesn't seem right. I think it's time that we put our money where our conservative values are. Are you happy that you're funding corporations that donate to Planned Parenthood? I'm not. I have found an outlet, and I want to share that with you. So email me at buyusmade@protonmail.com. Buy, B-U-Y, usmade@protonmail.com. Just email, and I'll give you some more information. But it's time that we started to make our dollars speak for us. Thanks for listening. This is the Sam Sorbo Show.